I guess it's time to jump down to one of the most deplorable tanks in World of Tanks console, and it is, of course, the captured KV-1. This is a tier 5 that has the DPM of almost like a tier 7 medium tank, and so this tank can be a devastating force, especially when you consider that this is essentially a KV-1 but with a fast firing, super accurate main armament, which means that you'll be able to dish out the damage at just an inordinate amount of pace. And it means that because the KV-1 was kind of limited in its prior state in the tech tree version by its kind of DPM and the lack of it, whereas this one has basically got the DPM whilst also having the armor at tier 5 to be able to bounce, and it means that you're able to do things like this, which is just tear apart literally everyone on the enemy team. And you can see how quickly we're reloading, 1.6 seconds to be able to deal 100 damage per shot, which is just ridiculous in all senses of the word. And this is why I believe that this tank may just be one of the most annoying, one of the most horrendous tanks to actually play against when you're playing tier 5 and you're coming up against someone that knows what they're doing. And it's just another reason how Wargaming got this tank completely wrong in terms of just trying to balance tier 5, because when you're playing tier 5 as a new player and you're coming up against people like myself that have played 20 something thousand battles and have the ability to fire premium, which is the key weak point of the capture KV-1. Yes, the kind of balancing mechanic is that you have to actually just spend your credits to be able to really make the most out of the tank, and you're seeing here that's exactly what we're doing, and we're able to just rinse opponents left, right and centre, picking up just everyone on the battlefield. We're able to just demolish, and that is really where the main problem comes with the capture KV-1, is that it's not limited by what the tank can do, but the opponents that you're coming up against and if they actually come towards you. And that's why such a tank is not very nice to actually play, and it's also not very nice to play against, because when you win, it's essentially because someone else is getting just destroyed by you, or when you lose, it's pretty much because your team have been pretty bad, or maybe you just took the capture KV-1 into a position so bad that there was no way of coming out of it. And that is exactly what the enemy team would hope for the capture KV-1 if you're coming up against them. But you can see here we're just steamrolling the opponents. There is absolutely nothing that they can do against us. There's just bouncing round. You can see we can even just blind fire, because you know how it is playing in a capture KV-1. You don't need to aim. We're just gonna blitz our way through the opponents, and trust me, this is a really fun tank to play. I'm not gonna beat around the bush and be like, yeah, it's so overpowered, no one wants to play it, it's not fun to play because it's so overpowered, because it is fun to play, so easy. Is it a competitive tank in terms of like really trying to show off your skill? Absolutely not, because it's just one of those that you just drive forward, auto-aim things and pen pretty much everyone. And you can see here we're able to just dish damage against this archer in an unbelievable manner. And it means that even when you're coming up against tanks that can pen you, because you have such good DPM, it doesn't actually matter, because you're able to just pen them every single time, whilst also be able to actually dish out the damage quick enough that they're probably not going to reload too many times when they're coming up against you. And because you are a heavy tank, you get way more hit points as well, because why not? Why not just release a KV-1 that was already very good at tier 5 and then make it even better? Typical Wargaming. Completely don't know what they're doing with these low tier premiums. You know how the Panzer V4 is, but maybe they were trying to make some stiff competition for the most overpowered tier 5. Of course, that was just one gameplay. We managed to pick up 2,900 damage just under in this game, with a little bit of assistance, and yeah, not a bad result for a tier 5. Second gameplay, we are here on one of my most favoured maps, and that's Malinovka. And it is basically because it has pretty much everything, and this is a very, very aggressive gameplay that we're going to be showcasing in this one, hence why the video is probably going to be 10 minutes or thereabouts. So you can see with these sort of gameplays is that it's all about, in the KV1, getting up close and personal, just out DPMing everything that you come up against. And when you're top tier, maybe you're playing +1, -1, or maybe you're just in one of those matchups where you just feel like the top dog. Maybe there's only a couple of tier 5s in the game that you're playing in, and it means that you can be that kind of forefront leader even in games where you feel like maybe you shouldn't be doing well. And with the Capture KV1, even when you're 2 tiers lower, you can still be disgustingly broken. And I can always remember coming up against the Capture KV1. I was in my Comet. I was on for the Pools medal actually, which is I believe 12 kills or 10 kills or something like that, and it was to win the game for a Colabanos and a Pools medal, and I had more health in the Comet, which is a tier 7 medium tank, against the Capture KV1, and I had more hit points. I have a medium tank which has supposedly got good DPM, and I got out-traded and I didn't bounce a single round off the Capture KV1. Equally, they didn't bounce a single round because they're just firing premium in this tank, which showcases just how good the DPM is when you're out-trading tier 7 medium tanks with a tier 5 heavy. Yeah, I just don't think it's fair in any sense of the regard. And it means that you can basically come up against any tank in the game and still do well. Bear in mind that, you know, when you're coming up against tier 7 heavies, maybe you'll struggle a little bit, but then that's exactly what the premium rounds are for, and why Wargaming probably introduced the premium rounds, because they know exactly how it is when people fire them. So yeah, it's just one of those tanks that Wargaming obviously knew when they created it that it's going to be overpowered and that they're going to be able to sell, because ultimately that's exactly what Wargaming want. They probably thought, oh, everyone's going to buy this tank because it's only cheap. It's probably only 3,000 gold or something like that if you did manage to purchase it. I think I got it as part of a bundle or something like that, or maybe I purchased it when it was like 30% off or 50% off or something like that not long ago. And so I thought, this thing has taken me out an inordinate amount of times within World of Tanks, so why not actually jump in it, give it a go, and give you a review and potentially how you can take this tank out, because there are ways of taking this tank out, and it primarily bases on just poking it, because ultimately the whole aspect of this tank is that it's good at being able to just dish out lots of damage in very, very short spurs where you're able to just hit your opponent continuously. And so the worst nightmare for the Capture KV1 or a tank like this coming up against opponents is people that can basically I guess side scrape, or tanks that are able to just deal the damage and kind of leave, and they're not able to do anything else to it. And that's exactly what this tank is really good at, and why I really enjoy playing in the Capture KV1 is because you can't just YOLO in. Sometimes you do actually have to think, which means that, yeah, sometimes you have to use a brain. And you can see here, within this game, within such a short period of time, for a tier 5 we've picked up a lot of damage, especially considering we've got a little bit of assistance damage as well, which is just an additional extra, and I guess that's what the Capture KV1 is. But we're about to find out about that weakness, which is, as we talked about, the lack of kind of, not armor, but I guess the lack of when you can't just continually fire at your opponent and pen, and that is probably the biggest mistake that a lot of people make. And you can see here what we're doing is just putting rounds after round into the lower plate of the Tiger P, which we can do, and he's probably just going to come around now, and this is where the Capture KV1 comes in a little bit of a loss, and that's because essentially they don't really have too much to do. Unfortunately, our teammate doesn't manage to pen him, and we're not going to be able to probably survive the second round as he bounced off of us, but we still managed to take on a 2-tier higher tank against us, dealing way more damage than he dealt to us, which I guess is balanced or not balanced, depending on what you guys want to actually think about. But there we go. A completely broken tank that Wargaming probably completely knew about when they made it, but, you know, Don't worry, because the reason why this tank isn't overpowered, in quotation marks, is because it doesn't get the penetration. Unless you fire premium, of course, which makes it nullify any kind of weakness that the tank had. But there we go, the Captured KV-1, one of the most disgusting tier 5 premium tanks, and a reason why probably a lot of the new players hate playing tier 5 in addition to the Panzer V4. So there we go. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like it and subscribe, and check out some of the other gameplay that we have on the channel, as well as the update news that we always regularly do every week. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.